So today I said I would go a little bit more into the practice of self-compassion known as RAIN. It's an acronym that stands for Recognise, Allow, Investigate and Nurture. And I put the quote on from Carl Rogers. So Carl Rogers says, I think the quote was, it was only when I accepted myself as I was in the moment that I was able to change. It is only when I accepted myself in the moment I was able to change. So Dean and I were talking about this earlier, and he said, well, what does it mean? Well, why is that it takes accepting yourself in the moment in order to be able to change? Because a lot of people, when I talk to them about this practice, there's this sort of sense that I can't accept myself as I am because if I do accept myself as I am, then I'm never going to change. Whereas in actual fact, what Carl Rogers is saying, now Carl Rogers was really the founding father of person-centered counselling. He was a psychologist, and he did lots of research into how people change. And one of the things that came very clearly through was there was this need of acceptance, the need to accept yourself as you are, because without that acceptance of where you are, what's happening actually with you moment by moment, then you're creating an internal war. You're at war with yourself, and there's a part of you. I mean, today I said I would talk about self-forgiveness in particular, and self-forgiveness is often, what is missing when we experience this horrible emotion of shame. We may have done things in our life, or we may be accused of things by, I know it happens quite often with parents, that their children accuse them of, I'm not a parent myself, so I haven't had this happen, but I did it myself to my own mother, like blaming her for all my problems, if you'd been, and the message was, if you'd have been a better mum, I wouldn't be such a mess, and and I think a lot of mothers get this message from their children, and it's just one example of where we feel shame. Because if we see our children struggling, there's can be a sense of, oh, I've messed up, and that there's a feeling of shame around that, which is extremely painful, very, very painful to experience, and it can be very debilitating. It can knock you out. If you think that your children are suffering now and it's your fault, well, that is a huge kind of burden of shame that we put on ourselves, because they kind of make it worse often for the parent, don't they? Because they kind of keep saying, it's all your fault, and so it makes it even harder, because they kind of almost like they want you to feel ashamed. Anyway, going back to the uncomfortable feeling that we're talking about is the shame. So this is what we need to accept in ourselves, that we feel this shame. And accepting it doesn't mean we think it's right, that we should be ashamed. Or maybe we do think it's right that we should be ashamed, but whether we think it's right or wrong, we have to allow ourselves, according to this way of healing it, to feel that shame rather than running away from it. We do. I mean, there is a place of obviously for distraction sometimes. I'm not going to feel that. I'm going to put the television on because I don't want to feel that pain. So I'll put the TV on, or I'll have a drink or a cigarette or whatever it is. That our go-to kind of way of escaping the painful feeling of shame. But the trouble is with these ways of distracting us, is we think, well, if I don't distract myself, then I'm just going to collapse into a big heap and I'm not going to be able to do anything. And we don't let ourselves feel the shame because we're afraid to feel it. But kind of, and Dean was saying, well, why do you need to accept how you feel? And I said, well, I thought of this metaphor to try to understand it, which is, because the shame really is that voice in your head which is telling you off, picking on you and wants you to feel miserable. So, but it's not, at the end of the day, it's you doing it to yourself. And it's a bit like the reason why you have to sort of turn towards the shame is in order to forgive yourself for how you feel and to tell yourself it's okay. It's perfectly natural to feel shame in this situation because your children are suffering and you feel like it's your fault. But actually, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that your children are suffering. You did the best you could as a mother. You might not have been perfect. Of course not. Who is? What mother is perfect? But you were operating within the constraints of your own conditioning. Perhaps you didn't get the love you needed from your mother, and she didn't get the love she needed from her mother, and so on. So do you remember last week I talked about that metaphor of the dog? I mean, this is the dog that's you see in the woods. Say you're going for a walk and you see this dog and you think, oh, a lovely dog, and you go over to pet it and then it starts growling at you and it snaps at you and it maybe even bites you. So then you're really angry with that dog, You might think, well, your owner should be punished or that dog should be put down or something because you're so angry with it. But then you notice that the dog has got its foot in a trap. So it's behaving in this aggressive and bad way because it's suffering. And that's the point really, is that people behave in bad ways, people behave in ways that are less than perfect because they're suffering. They might not even realise they're suffering, but they are. And because if we weren't suffering, we would be, loving beings of light and joy and what have you. It's the suffering that makes people corrupted, it corrupts our true nature. Our true nature is actually loving. It isn't mean. No matter who you are, that is your true nature. It just gets so hidden underneath perhaps all your conditioning that ends up making you behave like that dog, for example, biting everybody, because actually you're suffering. So the analogy I thought of when I was talking to Dean about it, in terms of turning towards the part of yourself which is, in this example we're talking about, is this sense of shame, is it's a bit like if someone's having a go at you in the pub, for example, say someone trying to pick a fight with you and calling you names and putting you down, and we don't want to put up with that, so we might get up and leave. So that's avoidance. So we're avoiding confronting that voice that's there telling us what a piece of rubbish we are, and how we're not, this is the sort of thing we're saying to ourselves when we're experiencing shame. Oh, I'm such a bad person. How could I do this? How could I, surely I should be better than that, and I should have done a better job, and I'm not good enough. This sense of not being good enough is something that afflicts most people, really. Most people have this sense that they're not really good enough. Certainly people who suffer from depression and anxiety, it's often because really they don't feel that they're good enough, that they're going to be found out. What's anxiety, social anxiety, what's that about? Social anxiety is about people feeling afraid that if they're in the social situation, they're going to be found wanting. They're going to be found to be not good enough. People aren't going to like you. So why wouldn't they like you? It's because you think you're not good enough. You're not going to live up to what they expect of you. So shame is, it's underlying so much of, I was saying actually to Dee the other day, well, I'm not sure that I really feel that much shame. But then last night I had a dream, actually. It was a shame dream. And I dreamt that a friend of mine had come to my house. It wasn't this house where I live, but they were at my house. And it was a bit of a mess, and it was all disorganised. And I could tell by the look on his face that he was sort of thinking, oh, this woman, I thought she would, be a bit more on it than to live in this state, and I was like, I felt so ashamed in my dream, of the fact that my house was in a terrible state. And I woke up feeling this, I was still, kind of feeling it when I woke up. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, you see, because a lot of the time we're not even aware of the fact that there's this shame, that's kind of subtly sort of digging at us and saying, oh, why aren't you better? Well, you should be better than this, in whatever way it is, You shouldn't be so fat, you shouldn't be so thin, you shouldn't be so ill, you shouldn't be whatever it is, it's like, you shouldn't. So going back to the analogy of the person in the pub, so you can get up and walk out, and for a while that works, doesn't it? Avoidance, you avoid that voice telling you what a bad, hopeless, useless person you are. You get away from it, so forget all about it. But then you bump into them again, which is like a trigger, isn't it? And then they're going at you again, so you don't really get away from it. It's still there. It chases after you. It chases you down the road out of the pub, keeps having a go at you. Or you might turn around and say, right, come on then, let's have a fight. You think you're so great, so you might react to that voice in your head that's telling you off. You might turn around and say, oh, shut up, which there's a place for that. Oh, I'm not listening to you. I'm not going to pay attention to you telling me I'm no good. I'm good. Well, I've done this and I've done that. And yes, I do keep my house quite well, and I'm busy, and, you can be arguing with it. And again, you're probably not going to win the argument because it will come up, it'll keep coming after you. So the way to actually stop it coming after you, this aggressive person, maybe is to turn around and talk to it and try to understand that person. Like, what is it? Why are you like this? And how can I help you? Give it some love, or give them some love. Give yourself some love. So this is where the self-compassion comes in, because if you give the negative feeling, negative emotion, love, instead of running away from it or fighting it, resisting it, then you can heal it. and then it won't keep bothering you. You see, this is why, you know, we might think, well, if I don't keep fighting it wins, but it's winning anyway because it keeps coming back. So try something different, and that's what this rain practice is about. It's a different approach. And, you know, in the counselling world, which Carl Rogers, you know, became, as I said, was the founding father of person-centred counselling. This is why in the therapeutic relationship, you know, if you have a therapist, one of the first rules of being a therapist, a counsellor, is that you must have unconditional acceptance of your client, no matter what they've done. No matter how, you know, you might be you know, it's not easy to do, you know, you have to bracket you know, they talk about bracketing your judgmental feelings. So say you've got someone and they've done something awful and they've come to see and they're telling you about it, and you might sort of, a part of you be thinking, bloody hell, you know, they're, I don't really like this person, but you've got to put that aside. And you've got to offer them unconditional acceptance, because what you're offering the unconditional acceptance to is not the behaviour, it's to the human being, you know, the human being who's suffering as a result of their behaviour, but they don't even know it. And we are all suffering as a result of our emotions, as a result of the way we think, and we don't know it. You know, sometimes we can be barely aware of it, you know, of what actually what the thinking is that's going on, because it seems like it's us. You know, I'm often saying, don't identify with your feelings, don't identify with your thoughts. But to actually do that, you have to have a sense of who you are that is beyond your thoughts and feelings. And this is where that kind of inner body practice comes in, developing this sense of yourself as the space of awareness, as the loving space of awareness. And this is why we're trying to develop that capacity to know ourselves as something that is beyond our thoughts and feelings and our bodies and our histories and our stories and all that. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. If you do have any questions about it, then do feel free to, you know, send me a private message or you know, put a comment, you know, under the video. So to do it in the meditation, to practice this rain in the meditation, remember it stands for recognize what's going on. So the first thing, it's like when we do the practice, I'll guide you into a nice relaxed state, hopefully, and then I'm going to invite you to bring to mind something where you felt this shame. It doesn't have to be anything major. In fact, better if it's not anything major. It could be something like not wanting, say someone wants to come round to your house and you're ashamed that it's a bit of a tip on a day, you know, that feeling of, or they turn up to your house and they come in and they see all your dirty dishes or whatever it happens to be. Something, or they catch you without your makeup on or something, and you feel ashamed. Just this feeling of shame, and see if you can actually notice how that feeling makes you feel inside. So that's the recognize, and then the allow. So allow is to really allow that feeling to be there, and feel it in the body. It's really important to feel it in the body. So notice, like, if we shame, how do you feel it in your body? Do you feel you sort of, oh, perhaps, you know, you might even simulate the sort of bodily posture you might take when you feel ashamed, or your facial expression when you feel ashamed, so that you can really feel it. So like with me, when I feel ashamed, there's a kind of, you know, you can feel yourself kind of hunching over and drawing in, you're sort of pulling in, you know, because this shame is felt in the body. So allow yourself to feel it in the body. And as you start to feel it in the body, you know, put aside the story, you know, of anything like, oh, well, I shouldn't feel ashamed, or how dare they, or any of that. Stop getting involved in the dialogue about it, the actual story, and just feel what it's doing in your body. And then, once you are feeling it, you can start to investigate, which is the I. So you start asking yourself questions. This is how you investigate. So, like, what most wants attention? You know, what needs healing here? What am I believing? You know, what am I believing? And then almost invariably it will be something on the lines of, I'm not good enough. You know, and notice that that's what you're believing, I'm not good enough. And see how, just really feel what that feels like, to feel I'm not good enough. And that's a very vulnerable place. So then ask this vulnerable place, what do you need from me so that you feel good enough? What can I give you? What can I give you? And you might put your hand on your heart at some point, or on your belly, wherever you sort of feel it, kind of in the, I mean, like you might even feel it in your head, or, you know, your neck or something. But often the heart is a good place to put your hand and feel the pain there. But then it's like you're giving then the compassion to that part of yourself that's hurting. So then that's the nurture then. Because what happens is that as you recognize and allow the feeling to be there, without trying to avoid it, without denying it, then it naturally creates a pause. You know, it creates a space in which compassion can arise naturally. Self-compassion begins to naturally arise in the moments that you recognize that you are suffering. You know, you're suffering when you're feeling that shame, I'm suffering. So it's almost like you become a mother to yourself. You know, you recognize yourself as a suffering being, and you want to nurture, you want to give that part of yourself love. So you put your hand on your heart and you can whisper something to yourself, like it's not your fault, you know, such as, I love you, I'm sorry you feel this, I love you, I'll always be here for you, you're good enough for me. So what does it need? Does it need reassurance? Does it need forgiveness? Yeah, I forgive you. I'll never leave you. If it needs companionship, does it need love? I love you. I'll always take care of you. I'll always do my best to take care of you. And you're giving that part, that sort of exiled part of yourself, the love that it really craves. And you can experiment with different phrases. Yes, so I'm glancing down at notes I've got here. Yeah, so as I said, I think we did this last week also, you can start to imagine that as your heart is there, as your hand is on your heart, that the light, a healing light, starts pouring out of your hand into that wounded part of yourself that needs healing, and you're giving that love to it, giving that love to yourself, that acceptance that you're okay, And you can allow yourself, kind of visualize if that works for you, or try to feel a sense of this loving energy pouring into you, taking care of you, that it's going to nurture you. So I heard one of the teachers talking about it. It's like your human heart is being held by your spiritual heart. So, I mean, sometimes I've found it quite helpful, especially if I do this practice lying down, to sort of get a sense that the surface underneath me, that there's almost like I'm being embraced, that sort of the loving arms of the Divine Mother is embracing me and telling me that it's okay, that it's not my fault, and that I can trust my natural goodness. We have a natural goodness which we need to trust. I trust in my own goodness. I'm doing the best I can. And then the final part of the session, I'll just invite you to just rest in that sort of sense of spacious awareness where you're holding yourself, as it were, in the comfort of this love that's pouring into you. So let's try, shall we? Let's have a go at doing the practice. So when you're ready, get yourselves lying down or sitting in your chair. If you're going to lie down, try to lie flat on your back. If you're sitting, and have your legs a little bit apart, feet flopping out to the side slightly. And you might want to roll your shoulders a bit. This is quite nice if you roll your shoulders, maybe give yourself a bit of a shake before you settle down, move about a little bit before you settle into your posture. And if you squeeze your shoulder blades together at the back and then let them drop and roll them a bit, it sort of gives a bit of spaciousness in the back. Try and flatten your back a bit. And if you're sitting in the chair, try to have your feet flat on the floor and your spine erect with the chin tilted forward slightly. So hopefully also if you've got your headphones, you can put those on too. So just beginning to become aware when you're in your posture, aware of your body, sitting or lying wherever you are. And then turn your attention to the sounds you can hear. Notice these resonant tones of these bowls. Perhaps you can hear sounds outside, birds singing or traffic or voices. Whatever sounds you hear, just allow them to be just as they are. If you've got any resistance to the sounds you can hear, then just notice that resistance and let it be there, but allow it to come and then go. As if you don't fight with reality, then it's a lot less painful. If you don't fight what is. And maybe start to notice now your breathing. Perhaps you can hear the sound of your own breathing. Perhaps you can hear the sound of the breath passing through your nostrils. And just start to become aware of all the sensations of your breathing just as it is. And perhaps taking a few deep breaths just to help yourself to relax and to become more at presence with your present moment experience. So breathing in, feel the sensation of the breath as it comes in through the nostrils. Hear the sound of it. Feel the way your ribs expand, your belly rises, and then feel the way the ribs deflate, the belly drops, and perhaps you can sense the out-breath coming out through the nose. Feels slightly warmer than it is when it comes in. And then just extend the pauses for a moment between the in-breaths and the out-breaths. So get to the top of the breath and pause just for a moment. It's a kind of moment of suspended animation. You might hear the sounds more clearly. And then when you release the breath, let it go long and slow, and perhaps start to breathe out a few breaths out through the mouth, as if through a straw. Nice long out breath. And with that out breath, feel the weight of your body sinking. Perhaps you can feel the contact of your body with the surface underneath you, and let that out breath go as if it was leaving through the soles of your feet or through your back, so that your body can begin to let go and relax. There's a natural letting go at the end of the breath. And pausing momentarily before you breathe in again, notice that moment of suspended animation before the in-breath comes back in. And then let your breath return to its natural rhythm after a few deep breaths like that. And scan with your awareness, just checking if you're holding any unnecessary tension anywhere. Often places like the jaw, you can let the jaw drop slightly. Perhaps notice the sense of moisture inside your mouth, the tingling of your lips, the brush of the air against your cheeks, and feel your eyes. Let your eyes soften and relax. And perhaps let a little corner of your mouth turn up, so that there's a very slight smile on your lips. And send that smile into your eyes, so it feels as though your eyes have got that very gentle smile. And allow your forehead to soften and relax. Your shoulders to spread and drop. Make sure your hands aren't clenched. Allow your chest and your belly to soften. And getting a sense of the breath as if it's coming down, all the way down into your lower belly. And then with the out breath, the spine can lengthen and relax. So the belly becomes soft. Allow the hip and pelvic area to relax. The thighs to relax. calves, the feet and the toes. So throughout the practice, if at any time you do find yourself getting lost in a train of thought, remember the breath is there always as an anchor to help bring you back to your present moment experience. And the sounds can bring you back to your present moment experience. So I'm going to invite you to bring to mind an occasion or a time when you felt a bit of shame. Try not to choose anything that was too traumatic. And as you remember an incident where you felt a bit ashamed of yourself, just recognise that was what was happening for you. Recognise there's a sense of shame here. And then allow yourself to feel that sense of shame in the body. How does your body experience this sense of shame? So you're just allowing yourself to experience it and giving it permission to be there. Say, it's okay, I can feel this shame, I can allow myself to feel this sense of shame. It's okay, this is my experience. I accept it. It's my experience. I'm not going to run away from it. I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to deny it. I'm allowing it. It belongs. This is what I feel. I accept myself in this moment for this feeling of shame. And really noticing how it feels in the body. And then begin to investigate a bit more with curiosity. What am I believing about myself that creates this sense of shame? Notice that there's a vulnerable place there, this vulnerable part of yourself, and ask, what does this vulnerable place want from me? What does it need? And as you ask these sorts of questions, don't look for an answer in words. Just look for the answer in just how the felt experience is unfolding. Don't look for a solution. Let the body answer. So really focusing on the felt sense in the body. And notice now, as we move on to the nurturing part, that self-compassion is beginning to naturally arise because you're suffering. And you're going to intentionally nurture your inner life now with self-care. Try to sense what the wounded, frightened or hurting place inside you most needs. And then offer some gesture of active care that might address this need. Does it need a message of reassurance from you? It's okay. This is allowed. I forgive you. I love you. I'll never leave you. Experiment and see what gesture of kindness most helps you to feel comforted, most helps your heart to soften and open. So this is where the hand on your heart, like a loving mother giving yourself that love. that hand on your heart. If you find it hard to even give yourself love, imagine that hand is the hand of a relative, a mother or another relative or a friend, reassuring you and giving you the love that you need, that you want. Or even a pet. Imagine that pet looking at you with total self-acceptance, total love and adoration. And as your hand rests there on your heart, begin to feel that whatever you need, whatever that wounded place in you needs, is pouring through now, like a warm light, pouring through your hand, pouring into your heart, pouring in love, acceptance, nurturing you, taking care of you. Telling you what you most want and need to hear. A warm, radiant light beginning to spread from your heart into your back, into your belly, spreading upwards and downwards in every direction. And as you breathe now, breathe in that love, breathe in that light. Feel it pouring into you, the love and light, breathing it into every cell of your body. And it's bringing healing. And let these sounds carry the waves of healing light to wherever it's needed, to all the dark places within you that need to be healed. Let these healing sounds, this light of love and compassion and acceptance bring you comfort, bring you peace. And so for the remainder of the session, just allowing yourself to bathe in this glow, in this light of love, and feel yourself as if the rain after the rain has been, then the growth can begin. Feel a sense of expansion, of growing, of healing, knowing yourself as this light of aware presence, of loving aware presence, your true nature, perfect, taking care of all the imperfect and broken parts of yourself. Making you whole again. So thank you so much for joining me, and you'll hear the 3 tings at the end of the session to tell you that it's over, and I wish you much love, much healing, and I'll see you next time.